Hello everyone, welcome to our channel. Today's topic, the influence of Latin loan words on English language. Unlike Celtic, Greek, French and Scandinavian borrowing, Latin loans are very important in the enrichment of English language. English is profusely influenced by the Latin language over a considerable period of time. Long before English began its separate existence, when English speakers had migrated to the British Isles, those who spoke it as a regional type of continental Germanic had acquired some Latin words. The Latin language influenced the English language and vocabulary through three distinct phrases. The first phrase was before the introduction of Christianity in England, then the second phrase was after the introduction of Christianity, and the third phrase was during and after the Renaissance. This Latin influence on English language is first heralded by England's contact with the Latin civilization. In the Old English, we find much of the Latin words associated with military affairs, commerce, agriculture, or refinements of living that the Germanic peoples had acquired through a fairly close contact with the Romans. Words like camp, segun, peel, mill, etc. are early borrowings. Besides, words associated with trade enter into the domain. Because of the enormity of wine trade, we find words like win, must, flesh, icked, etc. In the domestic field, hardly we have any caissoni to cook food or cup or drink coffee or disk to have any dinner. With the Christianization of Britain in 597 AD, there begins another phase of Latin borrowing to define the new conceptions, new religions, new ideas, and new faith. The massive inflow of Latin words is both learned and popular during this time. We have had church, bishop, alms, altar, angel, anthem, canon, hymn, pope, psalm, relic, etc. as religious words during this period. Later, by the tremendous influence of church in domestic life, we find Latin silk, radish, pine, plain, schoolmaster. The Latin gradually reaches the literary, medical, botanical, and intellectual fields. We have no history without Latin. The disease of cancer, paralysis might have got their names otherwise. Whom do we call a cedar tree? How can be a jungle without tiger and a desert without camel? In the Middle English period, as for example 1150 AD to 1500 AD, Latin words comes through French and work of translation. The translation of the Vulgate Bible gives the English people words like generation, persecution, and transmigration. The other borrowed words during this time includes words of law, medicine, allegory, theology, science, literature, etc., such as conspiracy, custody, frustrate, genius, infinite, intellect, limbo, pulpit, secular, scripture, testify, and many more. In the Renaissance, the Latin words flood into English text in overwhelming proportion. Firstly, they are twin influenced by French and Latin. Secondly, native and French words are remodeled into closer resemblance with their Latin origins. The Old English describe, perfect gets the new form describe, perfect by Latin influence. Yet there is the great mass of borrowing in the early modern English coming directly from Latin. Numerous examples can be cited. Affidavit, agenda, alibi, animal, bonus, deficit, exit, extra, fact, maximum, memorandum, omnibus, propaganda, veto, etc. are other Latin borrowing. In the present day scenario of the technical and scientific English, Latin shares with Greek the honor of being the source of rich host of new coinage. Words like coaxial, fission, interstellar, neutron, mutant, penicillin, radium, spectrum, sulfur, etc. have become an integral part of the English technical vocabulary. Hybrid forms, for example, partly Latin and partly Greek, such as egomaniac, speleologist, terramycin, etc. have also entered the English lexicon in a major way. Autogespersion opens. During the third period, the loans were more and more introduced into the written language before they came into the spoken language. There were, however, many words which did not enter the spoken language, specifically towards the end of this period. The Latin elements in English, except the earliest ones, have been the work of churchmen and scholars. The Latin loan words add enormous addition to the English vocabulary. It fills up the gap in the native stock of words. The Latin epithets and synonyms give the masculinity in English. The Latin dignifies and intellectualizes the English. Yet one cannot deny the excessive Latinization of English has stunted and growth of native vocabulary. Sometimes their superfluous and purposeless coinage has encouraged an inflated style full of learned and bombastic words and phrases which are termed as Johnsonese or journalist. In spite of this, the very Englishness of English is still there, and it is the power of English language that it assimilates Latinization into its natural growth.